So we're back with another review here. This is going to be a funk track, so we're going to have a lot of fun with this one. This is from Kirkland Cole, one of our pro feedback members. And you guys know what we do with these videos. This is all about helping all of us progress and move forward our production, mixing, and mastering skills for the TV film sync licensing business. That's what we do every single day in pro feedback. This is one of our members that was with us from the very beginning. So Kirkland, we're really glad to have you here, man. And hopefully we can give you some notes to get your funk track, further along its journey wherever it needs to go. So let's take a listen and have some fun. Here we go. All right, Kirkland bringing the funky, fresh energy for us this morning. Thank you so much, buddy, for sharing your track with us. Really fun, energetic energy you have going on here. It definitely feels. I mean, right off the bat, I saw Philip going for it. I was going for it. I mean, it really just kind of captures you rhythmically and pushes you along and just makes you feel good, actually. And that's a really important kind of understated part of sync licensing is delivering an emotion. Being really, really and delivering your emotion very quickly. So I would say of all the things you're doing here, that's probably the strongest thing you've been able to accomplish here is developing this fun, energetic vibe, delivering it all the way through, and getting to it very quickly, and getting this kind of fun, just vibe going really, really quickly. It's a really important part of creating licensable music. However, there are definitely a few things that you're going to need to adjust if you want this track to be accepted by libraries and, of course, placed into TV shows. So we're going to try to give you those notes in this review. So just keep that in mind as we go through this, that you want to keep the positive energy that you're bringing into this track. But all we're talking about in terms of the notes we're going to give you is we just want you to channel this into a licensable direction. And that goes for everybody that's watching this video. Most of the reviews that we do in sync in pro feedback, we're not telling you how to be a better composer or producer or anything kind of like that. What we try to do is we try to work with you on what your skills are and what your strengths are. And all of you guys have strengths. We all have certain strengths that are just sort of naturally kind of build up in us. And what we try to do is we locate those, we notice them, acknowledge them, and then we try to help you build upon those. So please always try to keep our notes in mind if we give criticism, that's really what we're trying to do. We're definitely not trying to tear anybody down or anything like that. We definitely want to make sure that everything that we're saying here is meant to help you guys on your journey to become stronger producers. So with that being said, Philip, I'm going to definitely go to you first on this one, man. I know you were feeling the vibe right off the bat. So what are your thoughts as we listen to this one?
Yeah, man, I thought this was really cool. I think there's some really cool parts here. I think as Jesse said, the vibe just right out of the gate is, head bobbing. The feeling is great. It started off feeling a little bit thin mix wise, and I didn't know if that was just because a lot of instruments hadn't entered yet. But then when the drums came in, I felt like the drums definitely came in kind of quiet and shy. And it just seems like all of the instruments could benefit from probably some sidechain compression and just something to bring the whole mix up front to where it's in your face. And I think um, if you use a reference track and you go A B between the two, you'll hear the difference in the reference track will just be jumping out of the speakers, and here it just seems a little bit timid. And for a funk track, these horn hits need to be slamming in your face and screaming and just punchy to where it's just sassy and just an attitude that will take the person bobbing their head and make them want to get up and start dancing. I mean, it's as I said before, I think some of the parts are there, and it's a cool thing. In the middle, nitpicky note, the xylophone thing, I would say you could probably lose that because it's just kind of out of character, for a funk band. You think George Clinton and P Funk, and all of a sudden somebody just rips a xylophone in the middle. It's just kind of out of character. Um, but man, overall, I think the biggest note is to just bring all these instruments up front. And I did feel in the first half or two-thirds of the way through that it was kind of like each section had an instrument that was taking the spotlight, but all the other instruments seemed to kind of back out. Like the bass was really sparse, and then the bass had a feature, and everything else kind of backed out. And then by the end of it, the last section, everybody's playing together. But I feel like the band could support some of those parts a little more to where it feels like an entire band like really grooving off of each other. But good job. I thought you're well on your way to a really cool track here.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, great notes. Absolutely. Yele, how about you, man? What do you think about this one?
Well, I need to say that the last part of this track really reminded me of the soundtrack of Little Big Planet for the PlayStation 4 and 5. So with it's immediately that kind of music that I have in mind. But I agree with Philip. The brass to me sounds a little bit thin. It can definitely get this growliness and this kind of attitude that you would normally see with this kind of music. I have to say I'm not an expert on this kind of genre, so finding any advice for this kind of music is a bit hard for me. But I think when you really want to have a good brass library, I would recommend to check out the pop brass library from East West Sounds. That's a really good pop brass library that can easily be implemented in this kind of music. I've been using it a couple of times. So yeah, this is the only thing I can think of. And the kick drum, I don't know if that's common in funk that it sounds like this, but I think it was a little bit hollow in my opinion. I don't know if that's the right word in English, but it sounded a bit. I don't know about the kick drum. It sounded a little bit, I don't know, a bit clunky. I don't know what the right word is for it in English. But yeah, those are basically the only comments I have on this track. It sounds really nice. So keep up the good work. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, there's many different adjectives for it, but whatever it was not punching and pushing air through the mix for sure. So definitely a new sample would probably be advised there for sure. And Hans, anything we didn't mention there?
Well, I mean, certainly all of the above. There's not much more I can add to. I certainly felt that same thing, that the xylophone, and actually there's a white noise riser at the end. Both were for me out of character, and I would lose both certainly. And then one thought I had in the very beginning was kind of for me the bass sound, because that slapping sound is kind of the key of that style of funk, and it is. I'd say it's about 70% there. What's missing for me is a certain element of saturation or a slight distortion that would come, like if you run it through like an Ampeg SVT amp or something that has really like that needs. I think that the bass needs to sound more real. I mean, in this style, what is key is that every instrument sounds like it's really played, and there's basically no sample library involved. And so the bass for me was one of the biggest parts where I felt like this doesn't just, it sounds meaty to me. This doesn't sound like a real like a real bass. So I would use, maybe if you can run it through an amp simulation, maybe there's some tape compression that you could apply there. And probably I would lift it around 1000K a little bit, so that your slaps actually come out and really hit through. And then in the beginning, the first horn phrase, at the end of it, you had the trumpet go into the octave and play that really high note. I would get rid of that, and that's kind of something that the trumpet player, I don't know if they would do that at this point. I would leave the trumpet in the same octave. And then, like Philip said, you gotta get those horn hits. They need to really punch through. But same thing. Otherwise, a really fun track. I had fun listening to, and you are well on the way. Thanks.
Very cool. So these guys covered pretty much everything. I don't really think I have any other technical notes for you, Kirkland. But what I do want to make a big point of is let's zoom out from all the technical stuff. Let's get a big picture here in terms of licensability, right? So it's one of the elements that we do try to give you guys notes on with these reviews. So, you label this one funk, which definitely there's a funky vibe to it. But when I heard these drums, I thought 90s hip hop, 80s hip hop. This drum sound right here. To play it back real quick. I mean, I'm feeling a lot more 90s than I am 70s. So one thing, I'm not sure if you used a reference track as you composed this track. My guess is no. Maybe you did. My hunch is no, only because I feel like this has got its foot in a couple of different eras, essentially. Like, there's a little bit of the funk vibe going on, but there's a little bit of this kind of 90s upbeat, fun hip hop going on. So we're a little bit in two different camps here. So when it comes to licensability and making your music useful for libraries, we do, for better or for worse, have to get focused. So if funk is really where you wanted to go, and maybe you just chose it because that was one of the options on my submission form, maybe, I don't know. But if it really is funk you want to go in, I don't think these drums would have been the ones I would have gone with, right? I would have wanted to get that sort of flat, live garage sound funky drum kit. That's probably what I would want to do. I don't know if these would be the drums that I would go with. But if you were trying to go with maybe sort of like a 90s hip hop feel, then maybe one thing I would say is it's certainly, there can be a place for that sort of music, but make sure that whatever library you're going to send it to has a need for it. Okay. So just because it might be something that you really, you vibe with, or you really resonate with that style or that genre, that era, that's great. But there's also that missing piece of, is it going to be useful for a library? So just make sure before you dive into some kind of retro throwback genre like this, that you already have the name, a specific name of a library that wants this. And how do you know they want it? Well, you've done your research. You see that they carry some albums of retro stuff. You can see maybe they've gotten some placements with some retro stuff. So just make sure you're pointing all of your efforts in the right direction in terms of something that can actually get placed, because it would be such a bummer, if you spent months putting together a whole album of this kind of stuff and then you don't know where to put it. You can't find a library. Nobody really wants it. They might be fans of it. They might think, yeah, this is cool, fun, funky music, but none of our clients really need this. And I'm speaking to you this because this is the mistake I've made in my career. I've made music that I thought was really cool and I was excited about, and I sent it to the libraries I was partnered with, and they're like, yeah, we're cool with it. We like it, but we can't accept it because we can't think of literally any placement opportunities for this kind of music. So we're not going to hand out consideration fees or give you a contract or worry about uploading your tracks or registering them if we can't even visualize where this would potentially land with one of our clients. So I just wanted to give this sort of 10,000 foot view and just make sure that everybody is always keeping that in mind before you jump too deep into one particular genre that you want to go in. And using reference tracks from a particular library you want to submit to is how you avoid that mistake. So if anybody wants to know, like, how do you guarantee that you're not going to be wasting time? Well, if you know the library, you've already gone to their website, you've researched them, and more importantly, you've got some reference tracks in their catalog that they've already accepted and they're already shopping, and you're using those as your guide, then you can at least rest assured that you are not stabbing in the dark. You know exactly why you're composing the music. You're composing the music that you are making, and how to structure it, how to put it together, and how to make sure that it's fitting in with that catalog. So just make sure you guys are doing that research. It's just a really good thing to make sure you're not wasting any unnecessary time. And Lord knows we do not have time that we can be wasting in this industry. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks to all our pros that offered this feedback, and I hope you guys learned something from this review. And if you want to get your tracks reviewed, just like we did with Kirkland, disciplines, you do need to join Pro Feedback. That is the only way for you to get this kind of review and these kind of notes for your particular music. So go ahead and click on the box or the description box. There's going to be a link down there for you to check out Pro Feedback and see what we're all about.